Welcome to Ancient Mysteries. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode, we're diving into one of the most intriguing puzzles of the ancient world, the mysterious collapse of the Mayan civilization. Known for their towering pyramids, intricate calendars, and breathtaking art, the Maya built one of the most advanced civilizations of pre-Columbian Americas. Their cities were some of the most populous and influential in the ancient world, and yet, by the 9th century AD, many of these great cities were abandoned, leaving behind only the ruins of a once thriving culture. What caused their downfall? Was it a natural disaster, internal conflict, or something even more mysterious? For centuries, scholars and archaeologists have speculated about the factors that led to the collapse of the Maya. From evidence of climate change to signs of warfare, the theories are numerous, but the truth remains elusive. Today, we'll explore the evidence, the theories, and the many questions that still surround the fall of this extraordinary civilization. So, let's begin our journey into the heart of the Maya world and try to uncover the truth behind the collapse that has baffled historians for centuries. Stay tuned. The Maya civilization, one of the most remarkable in the ancient world, spanned from as early as 2000 BCE to its peak during the Classic period. This vast and complex society stretched across modern-day Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire. At its height, the Maya civilization was composed of a collection of city-states rather than a unified empire. Each city-state, Tikal, Copan, Palenque, Calakmul, and others, operated independently, often engaging in alliances, trade, and at times bitter rivalries. Despite their independence, these city-states shared common cultural and religious practices, language systems, and architectural styles, creating a unifying thread that defined the Maya world. The Maya were master builders, erecting towering pyramids, palaces, ball courts, and temples that still stand today, cloaked in jungle vines and whispers of the past. These structures weren't merely functional, they were imbued with spiritual significance. The temples, for instance, were often aligned with celestial phenomena, reflecting the Maya's deep reverence for the cosmos. The Maya had a sophisticated understanding of time and space. They developed intricate calendars that mapped out solar and lunar cycles with astonishing precision. Their long count calendar, famously associated with the 2012 end-of-the-world hysteria, was a mathematical marvel that tracked time over thousands of years. To the Maya, time wasn't just linear, it was cyclical, a repeating dance of cosmic and earthly events. Religion permeated every aspect of Maya life. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, each representing elements of nature, life, and death. Rituals and ceremonies were central to their society, often involving offerings of incense, food, or even blood. Sacrifice, as grim as it may seem to modern eyes, was seen as an essential means of maintaining harmony between the human and divine realms. Their artistic achievements were equally impressive. Maya artisans created elaborate frescoes, carvings, and pottery, much of which depicted their gods, rulers, and myths. Their hieroglyphic writing system, one of the most sophisticated in the ancient world, allowed them to record historical events, lineage details, and even the lives of ordinary people. The Maya were also skilled in agriculture, managing to cultivate the challenging tropical terrain with ingenuity. They built extensive irrigation systems, terraced hillsides, and created raised fields in wetlands, ensuring food security for their growing populations. Their trade networks extended far and wide, exchanging jade, obsidian, cacao, and exotic feathers, which connected them to neighboring cultures and beyond. But for all their brilliance, the Maya world was also one of contradictions. The same cities that reached toward the heavens with their pyramids could be centers of conflict and conquest. Despite their achievements, they faced the same challenges that have plagued civilizations throughout history: resource scarcity, power struggles, and the pressures of a changing environment. This was a civilization deeply connected to its surroundings, yet vulnerable to its whims. And as we'll explore, it was this delicate balance that may have ultimately contributed to the mystery of their collapse. But before we dive into that enigma, let's first unravel the threads of their rise and their extraordinary way of life. As we shift our focus to the mystery itself, let's set the scene. The year is somewhere around the late 9th century CE. Across the vast expanse of the Maya heartland, cities that once buzzed with life, ceremony, and commerce are now falling silent. Grand temples that echoed with the sounds of chants and rituals are abandoned. Elaborate ball courts, where crowds once cheered on players in the sacred game, lie empty. By the end of the 10th century, many of the once thriving cities in the southern lowlands, such as Tikal, Palenque, and Copan, are left to be reclaimed by the jungle. This is the mystery that has confounded historians and archaeologists for centuries, the so-called collapse of the classic Maya civilization. How could a society so advanced, so deeply rooted in its environment, and with such profound cultural achievements, falter so dramatically? First, it's crucial to clarify what we mean by collapse. The Maya didn't vanish entirely, far from it. The descendants of the Maya people are alive and well today, preserving many of their traditions and languages. But the fall of the classic period marked a dramatic shift. The great urban centres of the southern lowlands were abandoned, their monumental architecture left to crumble. Trade networks fractured, population centres dispersed, and the political systems that had dominated the region for centuries fell apart. What makes this collapse even more puzzling is that it wasn't a single catastrophic event, but rather a gradual process that unfolded over decades or even centuries. The collapse wasn't uniform across the Maya region either. While cities in the south were declining, some in the northern Yucatan Peninsula, like Chichen Itza, continued to thrive well into the post-classic period. This uneven timeline complicates the search for a singular cause. Adding to the enigma are the contrasting clues left behind. Hieroglyphic inscriptions on stelae, those towering stone monuments, abruptly cease in many cities, leaving behind a silence in the written record. Archaeological evidence shows a decline in the construction of monumental buildings, but at the same time there are signs of increased warfare, with cities fortifying their defences. Then there's the sudden absence of everyday life artefacts. Pottery shards, tools, and household items, which archaeologists rely on to piece together the lives of ordinary people, begin to dwindle. It's as if entire communities decided to up and leave, leaving their cities behind as ghostly relics. Even the landscape itself offers tantalizing hints. Soil samples show evidence of deforestation, erosion, and declining agricultural productivity, an environmental toll that might have pushed the Maya to the brink. Simultaneously, records of prolonged droughts have been unearthed, pointing to climate change as a possible trigger. Yet the mystery remains unsolved. Was it environmental stress, political upheaval, economic collapse, disease, or a combination of these factors, a slow unravelling of a complex system? The deeper we dig, the more layers of the mystery we uncover, each one revealing a society that was resilient and fragile, brilliant and flawed all at once. To understand the collapse of the classic Maya civilization, we must turn to the evidence left behind, physical, environmental, and even cosmic. Archaeologists, anthropologists, and climate scientists have worked together to piece together clues, and what they've found paints a picture as intricate as a Maya glyph. One of the most significant discoveries comes from the Maya's very own records. Their hieroglyphic texts. Carved into stone stelae and painted onto codices, these inscriptions chronicle the lives of Maya rulers, their conquests, alliances, and rituals. What's striking is that in the centuries leading up to the collapse, these texts become increasingly focused on warfare. Once used to commemorate construction projects and religious ceremonies, stelae start emphasizing military victories and power struggles. It's a hint that escalating conflict may have played a role in destabilizing the Maya's political landscape. But it's not just the texts that tell a story. Archaeological digs in cities like Tikal and Caracol reveal evidence of fortifications, walls, ditches, and palisades, built hastily during the period of decline. Nearby, mass graves filled with hastily buried bodies suggest violent confrontations and a breakdown in the societal order that had once maintained peace through intricate alliances and dynastic marriages. Moving away from the cities, the landscape itself provides another set of clues. Soil cores taken from lake beds across the Maya region have revealed layers of sediment that tell a story of deforestation and environmental degradation. Pollen analysis shows a marked decline in the presence of maize, the Mayas' staple crop during the period of collapse. In its place are the pollen signatures of weeds and hardy plants that thrive in poor soils, an indication that agriculture may have failed in some regions. And then there's the weather. These same sediment cores contain evidence of prolonged droughts. Tiny shells of aquatic organisms and chemical signatures in the soil indicate that water levels in lakes and reservoirs plummeted during key periods of the Maya decline. This isn't just speculation. The data is consistent across multiple sites, suggesting a regional climate event that could have disrupted agriculture, trade, and daily life. One fascinating discovery ties all these threads together: the Maya's reservoirs. Recent excavations in cities like Tikal have uncovered vast, sophisticated water management systems, canals, reservoirs, and aqueducts designed to capture and store rainwater. These systems were engineering marvels, but evidence of toxic algal blooms in some reservoirs suggests that water sources became contaminated during periods of drought. This would have compounded the strain on a society already grappling with food shortages and conflict. Artifacts, too, offer tantalizing clues. Pottery fragments show shifts in trade patterns, with the absence of certain materials suggesting that long-distance trade networks had collapsed. Obsidian tools and weapons found in unexpected locations point to the movement of people, perhaps fleeing war or environmental disaster. Taken together, these discoveries paint a complex picture. The Maya weren't simply victims of a single catastrophe. They were part of a system where environmental pressures, social tensions, and perhaps even unforeseen factors converged, creating a perfect storm of challenges. But even with all this evidence, the full story remains elusive, a tantalizing puzzle waiting to be solved. In the next segment, we'll delve into the scholarly debates surrounding this evidence. Experts agree on some points, but others spark heated discussions, and the search for answers continues. The collapse of the Maya civilization has sparked spirited debates among scholars for decades. While much progress has been made in uncovering the physical evidence, interpretations of what it all means vary widely. The complexity of the collapse, its slow unfolding over centuries, and the regional variability in its effects means there's no single, universally accepted explanation. Instead, experts propose and contest a mosaic of interconnected theories. One of the most contentious points is the relative importance of environmental factors versus social and political ones. On one side are researchers who argue that prolonged droughts evidenced by sediment cores and climate models were the primary driver of the collapse. They emphasize how critical water was to the Maya, especially in the limestone-dominated regions of the Yucatan, where groundwater is sparse, and rain-fed reservoirs were essential for survival. In this view, the Maya simply could not adapt to the worsening climatic conditions. However, other scholars counter that the Maya were remarkably resilient and adept at managing environmental challenges. They argue that climate change alone doesn't explain why the civilization crumbled so dramatically. Instead, they point to internal social and political factors, such as the fracturing of alliances, the overreach of city-states, and intensifying warfare. These scholars suggest that the collapse of centralized leadership and increasing infighting made it impossible for the Maya to respond effectively to environmental pressures. A third camp takes a more integrated approach, proposing that the collapse resulted from a perfect storm of interconnected crises. Proponents of this theory suggest that environmental degradation, overpopulation, resource mismanagement, and political instability all compounded one another, creating a cascade of failures that the Maya couldn't recover from. For instance, deforestation to fuel lime production for plastering buildings likely exacerbated soil erosion and reduced agricultural yields, which in turn may have heightened competition for resources and led to more conflict. Another debate centers on the role of the elite class. Some scholars argue that the collapse was, in many ways, a top-down phenomenon. They propose that the Maya rulers, obsessed with maintaining power and prestige, overburdened their populations with demands for labor and tribute. This view sees the collapse as a failure of leadership, where the priorities of the elite diverged sharply from the needs of the common people. Others, however, question whether such a stark division existed. They argue that the evidence doesn't fully support the idea of widespread rebellion or discontent among the lower classes, suggesting instead that the collapse was more systemic and less focused on class divisions. There's also debate about the timeline of the collapse. While the so-called classic collapse around 900 CE is often highlighted, some cities in the northern Yucatan thrived well into the post-classic period, with Chichen Itza and Mayapan continuing to flourish. This has led to questions about whether the term collapse is even appropriate. Was it truly an abrupt, civilization-wide breakdown, or was it a gradual process of transformation and decentralization? Finally, the role of trade and external influences remains a topic of contention. Some researchers suggest that the collapse of trade networks dealt a fatal blow to the Maya economy, while others downplay its significance, arguing that most Maya cities were largely self-sufficient. As the debates rage on, they underscore the enigmatic nature of the Maya collapse. Each perspective adds depth to our understanding, but also reveals how much remains unresolved. In the next segment, we'll explore some of the more speculative and unconventional theories about what might have led to the downfall of this extraordinary civilization. When it comes to the mysterious collapse of the Maya civilization, mainstream theories often dominate the conversation. But fringe ideas and speculative theories have their own allure, fueled by the intrigue of the unknown and the limits of conventional evidence. These unconventional perspectives, while often controversial, offer a fascinating lens through which to explore one of history's greatest enigmas. One of the most enduring speculative theories ties the Maya collapse to extraterrestrial influence. Proponents of this idea suggest that the Maya, with their sophisticated astronomical knowledge and intricate calendars, had contact with beings from beyond our planet. They point to the precise alignments of their temples and the complexity of their star charts as evidence of knowledge that might have been gifted by advanced civilizations. In this narrative, the abrupt collapse of the Maya could have been the result of their teachers leaving, or worse, some kind of catastrophic cosmic event tied to alien intervention. While most archaeologists dismiss such ideas, they persist in popular culture, often fueled by the mysterious symbolism found in Maya art. Certain glyphs and carvings are interpreted by some as depictions of spaceships or otherworldly beings. To skeptics, these interpretations are imaginative leaps that ignore the rich cultural and mythological context of Maya art. Still, the idea continues to captivate those who prefer to see the Maya as participants in a cosmic drama. Another fringe theory suggests that the Maya discovered and misused advanced technologies, leading to their downfall. Some researchers speculate that the Maya, through their study of celestial mechanics and mathematics, unlocked powerful natural forces, perhaps even a form of energy harnessed from the Earth itself. According to this theory, their over-reliance on or mismanagement of this technology caused an environmental catastrophe, such as widespread deforestation, soil degradation, or even climate change on a scale beyond their ability to control. While this theory has little direct evidence, it appeals to the imagination, portraying the Maya as an ancient civilization grappling with forces beyond their understanding. There's also the idea that the Maya were victims of a natural disaster, more dramatic than the historical record suggests. Some fringe theorists propose that massive volcanic eruptions, mega-tsunamis, or even asteroid impacts could have devastated their cities. While geological evidence doesn't support such claims for the classic period collapse, these theories persist, fueled by the catastrophic imagery of cities buried under ash or swept away by the sea. A particularly provocative speculative theory is that the Maya may have migrated en masse to other regions. This idea posits that environmental and social pressures pushed them to abandon their cities, travelling far from their original homeland to establish new societies. While there's no evidence of a large-scale migration to another part of the world, some enthusiasts draw tenuous connections between Maya symbols and those of other ancient cultures, suggesting improbable links across vast distances. Finally, there's the notion that the Maya collapse represents a spiritual or metaphysical transformation. According to this perspective, the abandonment of their cities was a deliberate act tied to their understanding of cosmic cycles. The Maya believed in the cyclical nature of time and the renewal of worlds, and some suggest they may have viewed the end of their civilization as part of a larger cosmic plan. While these speculative theories often stretch the boundaries of plausibility, they underscore the deep fascination we have with the Maya and their enigmatic history. The story of the Maya is a story of brilliance, resilience, and enigma. Over the course of this episode, we've journeyed through the heights of their civilization, marveled at their achievements, and explored the puzzle of their sudden collapse. We've delved into their awe-inspiring cities, their advanced understanding of time and the cosmos, and the extraordinary legacy they left behind. We began with the gripping question of how such a powerful and innovative society could falter so dramatically. The Maya were architects of a complex world, masters of agriculture, trade, and diplomacy, creators of one of the most accurate calendars in history, and profound thinkers who saw life as a reflection of the cosmos. Yet as we explored, their achievements were shadowed by vulnerabilities, challenges rooted in their environment, their political systems, and even their ambitions. We examined the evidence left behind: crumbling cities reclaimed by the jungle, drought markers in lake sediments, and the remnants of once thriving trade routes. Scholars have pieced together a narrative of ecological strain, internal conflict, and shifting climates that may have unraveled their delicate balance. But as we've seen, no single explanation suffices. The Maya collapse is a mosaic of interwoven factors, each adding a piece to the puzzle. The debates among experts underscore the complexity of the mystery. Was it a perfect storm of events, a catastrophic drought that tipped the scales, or a societal collapse brought on by internal strife and overreach? While we've explored the dominant theories, we've also entertained the speculative: extraterrestrial influences, lost technologies, and metaphysical transformations. These ideas, while unconventional, highlight the depth of our curiosity and the endless human desire to understand. But perhaps the greatest lesson of the Maya collapse is its relevance today. The challenges they faced, resource scarcity, climate pressures, and the fragility of political systems, are not confined to the past. Their story serves as both a warning and an inspiration, reminding us of the resilience of human ingenuity and the importance of living in harmony with our environment. So, where does that leave us? The collapse of the Maya remains one of history's most compelling mysteries, a testament to the complexity of human societies and the enduring power of their legacy. The cities they left behind, hidden for centuries beneath layers of earth and time, whisper to us of a people who reached for the stars but were ultimately brought low by forces greater than themselves. Next time on Ancient Mysteries, we'll dive into another tale that has captivated humanity for millennia: the story of the Great Flood. Was the biblical flood, a tale shared by cultures across the globe, rooted in actual events? Could a real catastrophic deluge have inspired one of the most enduring myths in human history? Join us as we unravel the evidence, explore the theories, and uncover the legends surrounding this epic story. The past, as always, has more to tell us, if we're willing to listen. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and this has been another episode of Ancient Mysteries. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Share this episode with your fellow mystery enthusiasts, and be sure to connect with us on social media for behind-the-scenes content and exclusive updates. Join us next time for another exciting journey into the world of ancient mysteries. Until then, stay curious.